In everybody's life, there are things that suck life out of you, and there are things that put life into you. Now, this is an interesting piece of, of dynamic information as far as I'm concerned. And here's what makes it interesting to me: the same things don't suck life out of everybody nor put life back into everybody. There, we're all so alike in so many ways, but there are lots of ways we're not alike. I recently read an interesting and helpful book. The content I found to be very helpful. The style of presentation and writing, not so much, from a guy who is real big into the out of doors, into horses, into camping, into canoeing, into the wilderness. And he often came back to the concept that time in nature is restorative. He did this in several different ways. One of the ways was illustrate his own restoration and how restored he felt by spending the night in the woods, walking through the forest, getting in his vehicle, rolling the windows down, and driving down a country road. How that restored him, and he kind of did it. This was my take on it. He did it in a way that kind of indicated, everybody get in your car, roll the windows down, and drive country road. Everybody spend the night in the woods. Everybody, as though it renewed and restored him. So why wouldn't it for everybody? Well, yeah, I get it. The things that restore me, sometimes in my desire to help others find restoration and to be restored and renewed, I sometimes get a little over ambitious, and because it works for me, why wouldn't it work for you? Well, think about that with my glasses. See, these glasses help me. They make it a lot easier for me to read and work on my computer and basically do most everything. So my thought is, if you're struggling with it, you should just get my glasses. Except they may make it worse for you, because this prescription is for the way my vision works. If you have the same issues in your eyes that I have, it would be great, but a lot of people don't. Okay, so where I'm going with this is that we need renewal. We need restoration, because there are things in our lives that suck the life out of us. I put these in the category of life-sucking stuff. For me, and see, this isn't everybody, but for me, give me a task that has to do with numbers, math, and details, and you will suck the life out of me. I have friends, they love it. They love working with the numbers and seeing things fit together and making them fit and it's life-giving for them, while it's life-sucking for me. For me, drop me off at a decent golf course and give me about 5 hours, and even unless I play just horribly, it puts life back in me. But this guy I told you about, who, the book, I have a feeling you put him on a golf course, give him, 4 or 5 hours, I'm pretty sure I know what he will do. He'll leave the club in the cart in the clubhouse and he'll just walk out around the woods. Different kind of thing. I know I spend a good part of my time out in the woods, but that's not what it's about. Everybody has some things in their life that pull the life out of them. And we've got to have things in our life that put the life back in us. I think Peter knew that. And I maybe you think when we get there, you'll think I've stretched this a little far. I don't think I did. I'm in 1 Peter 5. Like, how long have we been in 1 Peter 5? Well, we don't want to ask that question because the answer is way long. 1 Peter 5:10. And the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast. What are the things in your life that suck the life out of you? What are the things in your life that drain you of enthusiasm and energy and optimism? What are the things in your world that tug and pull at you and seem to constantly be the drains on your reservoirs of personal resources? Everybody has them. One of the things that is safe to say for everybody, and Peter addresses it when he says, after you have suffered a little while, one of the things that drains us of our enthusiasm and optimism and energy is suffering. When you have been in a season, a prolonged season of suffering, it's very difficult to sustain yourself, your energy, and your engagement with the world and all the challenges that are coming your way without some kind of restoration, some kind of renewal. Peter indicates that God gets that, okay? But we have to look at it and say, okay, just the fact that life takes energy, that there are things in my life that suck energy out of me, I'm not sure that always is the same thing as suffering. It sometimes feels like we're suffering. But when real suffering happens, when it is really the hard things, not just the things we didn't want, but things like cancer treatment, MS, your long-term disabilities, your long-term unemployment, not because you don't want to work, but because in your field there just seems to be nothing available. When you suffer in those ways, now we're talking about, and I don't mean to make light of anybody else's life, but that's real suffering. My candidate not winning in an election, that, can I say it? Because I do have a favorite and I do have a candidate that I want to win, but if they don't win, honestly, even in an election as pivotal as this one seems, I kind of don't feel like that I'm going to suffer. Things may get inconvenient. I'm not always going to get what I prefer. Am I going to suffer? I don't know. We have to be careful what we think of as suffering and what we permit ourselves to think of as suffering, and thinking clearly about what really is suffering. But the point here, let me get back to it. The point is that after you suffer for a little while, God himself will restore you. It is a legitimate prayer request to ask God to restore you. He restores you. He will make you strong. Being restored and being made strong are one and the other. You don't get strong without restoration. You don't get restoration when you're strengthened. I mean, you get restoration when you're strengthened. Do you see what I'm saying? They're not the same thing, but when one happens, the other will. And we have this, I take it as a promise in this blessing, that God will himself restore and make you strong. And then he says these other two things. These are the three things, I guess, four. You're restored, but you're strong, firm, and steadfast. Why would you be restored, made strong, firm, and steadfast? Because this is for the long haul. God is into giving us what we need for sustainable life in him. Another way to say that, it's a pretty religious way to say it, is God is into the idea. He is big into the idea of us having the resources for a sustainably holy life. A life that consistently and sustainably reflects his nature. That a life that consistently is lived within his dynamic, within his design, within his stated will. Nobody in the world, there is no one who will not benefit when God restores them, makes them strong, firm, and steadfast. This is not normal. I really don't think Peter here is talking about our physical strength. I think he's talking about our emotional and spiritual and our mental selves. I've known people who were physically and medically, they were not restored. I mean, they were significantly disabled, and I don't mean that in the, disabled. Their ability had been taken from them. Okay, these people, and yet they seemed spiritually, emotionally, mentally restored, strengthened, made firm and steadfast. I'm a chicken at heart, and I probably would not be the guy that would volunteer to do the painful thing. I would wait until somebody else did, and then I'd say, I'll pray for you. Right? I'm not that, I don't like pain. But if God were to bring into my life that kind of long-term suffering, which would seem long-term to me, but in the big picture of reality, it would be for a little while, because my life, however long it is, will only be for a little while, right? Okay, but if he does that to me so that physically he chooses for his own reasons that he will not heal and restore me physically, I want his restoration emotionally, spiritually, mentally. I want that he would make me strong, firm, steadfast. See, these qualities are essential in a world that changes moment to moment to moment. In a world where the value system seems to be so fluid and so ethereal and so unsteady and unfirm, we've got to have this ability to be strong, firm, steadfast. For what? For our opinions? For our preferences? No. For God's design, for his plan, for his purposes, for his will. I'm not quite done with this, because next time I want to come back and we're going to deal with the idea of, okay, when you are restored, strengthened, made strong, firm, and steadfast in this way, what does that look like? And what do you do with that? And even one other question of, can I put myself in a position where this is more likely to happen? Okay, so I'm at 15:05 and I'm done. I hope we get to connect like this again next time for Soul Care with Stevie Boy.